The stars looked different when you knew they might be the last ones you'd ever see. Admiral Hana stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the enemy fleet grow larger on the main screen. Each red dot represented a Vorthak warship, and there were so many of them that the display looked like a bloody rash across space. "How many?" she asked quietly. 2,000 ships confirmed, Admiral. "Maybe more hiding behind the gas giant," reported Lieutenant Kyung from the communications station. His voice stayed steady, but Hana could see his hands shake as he worked. Hana closed her eyes for a moment. The human fleet had 43 ships left, 43 ships against 2,000. The math was simple and cruel. "Admiral, incoming transmission. From High Command," Kyung said. The familiar face of Fleet Commander Park appeared on screen. His usual calm expression was gone, replaced by something Hana had never seen before. Fear mixed with desperate hope. "Hana, you need to pull back. All ships retreat to Sector 7 immediately. We're evacuating the outer colonies now, but we need time." "How much time?" Hana asked. 12 hours. Maybe 14 if we're lucky. The civilian ships are overloaded and, slow. Hana looked at the tactical display again. The Vorthak fleet was moving fast, faster than the evacuation ships could travel. Even if her entire fleet sacrificed itself here, it might only buy 6 hours. "Understood, Commander. We'll hold as long as we can, then fall back." Park's image flickered. "Hana, I'm sorry. We should have seen this coming." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Around her, Hana's crew worked at their stations, but she could feel their eyes on her. They all understood what retreat meant. It meant abandoning millions of people who couldn't run fast enough. "All ships, this is Admiral Hana," she broadcast, to the fleet. "We have new orders. Begin strategic withdrawal to Sector 7. Repeat, all ships fall back to Sector 7. One by one, the captains acknowledged the order, all except one. "Admiral, the Silent Thunder isn't responding," reported Lieutenant Kyung. Hana frowned. Captain Dowan commanded the Silent Thunder, humanity's newest and most experimental ship. It was smaller than her other vessels, but packed with technology that most people didn't understand, including sometimes the people who built it. "Get me Captain Dowan," she ordered. The screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Silent Thunder. Captain Dowan sat in his command chair, looking calm despite the chaos around them. Behind him, Hana could see his crew working frantically at their stations. "Captain, did you receive the withdrawal order?" Hana asked. Dowan nodded slowly. "Yes. Admiral, we received it." "Then why aren't you moving?" "Because someone needs to stay, Admiral. Those evacuation ships won't make it if we all leave now." Hana felt her stomach drop. "Captain, that's not your decision to make." "Actually, it is." Dowan's voice was quiet but firm. "My ship, my crew, my choice. We're staying." "Dowan, listen to me. Your ship is experimental. We don't even know if half your systems work properly in combat. You can't face 2,000 ships alone." A small smile appeared on Dowan's face. "We're not planning to fight them all, Admiral. We're planning to buy time. There's a difference." On the Silent Thunder's bridge, Chief Engineer Minji looked up from her console. "Captain, the quantum drive is ready. But I have to warn you, we've never tested it in combat conditions. The power requirements alone could tear the ship apart." "Will it work?" Dowan asked. "Maybe, probably. I think so." "Good enough." Dowan turned back to the main screen. "Admiral, we're going dark in 5 minutes. Tell the evacuation ships they have 12 hours, not 6. "How can you promise that?" "Because we're not going to fight fair." Dowan stood up from his chair. "Weapons Officer Taehyun, are our modifications ready?" A young man at the weapons console nodded grimly. "All the captured Vorthak tech has been integrated, Captain. We can hurt them, but we'll have to get close." Navigator Yona spoke from her station. "I've plotted 17 different escape routes through the asteroid field. If we're fast enough, we can hit them and disappear before they know what happened." Dr. Sunwoo's voice came over the intercom from the medical bay. "Captain, I have to protest. The radiation from the quantum drive could kill us all within days." "Doctor," Dowan replied calmly, If we don't do this, everyone dies within hours. I'll take days over hours. Admiral Hana watched this exchange with growing understanding and horror. Captain Dowan, I'm ordering you to retreat. I'm sorry, Admiral, but I can't follow that order. My crew has voted. All 200 of us. We're staying. This is suicide. No, Admiral. Suicide is when you die for nothing. We're dying for 12 hours. 12 hours for 2 million civilians to reach safety. That's not suicide. That's mathematics. The Vorthak fleet was getting closer. On the long-range sensors, Hana could see them spreading out into attack formation. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never met real resistance. Captain, your ship has families too. Your crew has people waiting for them. Dowan's expression softened for a moment. Yes, they do. And those families are on the evacuation ships right now, along with 2 million others who need time to run. Pilot Jihan called out from his station. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the Vorthak fleet. They're charging weapons. Understood. All ships in the human fleet, begin immediate withdrawal. We'll cover your retreat. Admiral Hana wanted to argue, wanted to order her, other ships to stay and fight alongside the Silent Thunder. But she knew that would only waste more lives without changing the outcome. 43 ships couldn't defeat 2,000. But one ship, with the right technology and the right crew, might be able to disappear long enough to cause real problems. Captain Dowan, she said finally, it's been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, Admiral. Take care of our people. The transmission ended. On Hana's tactical display, she watched her fleet begin to retreat while the Silent Thunder moved forward, directly toward the massive enemy armada. All ships, maximum burn. Get us out of here, Hana ordered. As her flagship accelerated away from the battle zone, Hana kept watching the tactical display. The Silent Thunder was just one tiny dot, moving toward a cloud of red enemy contacts. Then suddenly, the dot disappeared. Did they? Lieutenant Kyung started to ask. No, Hana said quietly. They went dark. The question is whether their experimental cloak actually works. For several minutes nothing happened. The Vorthak fleet continued forward, seemingly unaware that anything had changed. Then explosions began blooming throughout their formation. My God, whispered Lieutenant Kyung. They're actually doing it. The Silent Thunder had vanished from every sensor, but its weapons were still very real. Like a ghost ship, it struck at the enemy fleet and disappeared before they could respond. Each attack was small but precise, targeting supply ships and communication vessels. Admiral Hana smiled grimly as she watched the enemy formation begin to slow and spread out, looking for a threat they couldn't see. Signal to all evacuation ships, she ordered. You have your 12 hours, don't waste them. The bridge of the Silent Thunder felt different when you couldn't see outside. The experimental cloaking system had wrapped the ship in a bubble of bent light and twisted energy that made the stars disappear. Captain Dowan sat in his command chair watching his crew work in the strange blue glow of emergency lighting. Cloak is holding steady, reported Chief Engineer Minji from her station. Sweat beaded on her forehead despite the cool air. But Captain, I'm seeing stress fractures in the quantum matrix. This technology was never meant to run for hours at a time. How long do we have? Hard to say. Maybe days, maybe weeks. Maybe the whole thing explodes in the next 5 minutes. She managed a tired smile. That's what makes it experimental. Lieutenant Kyung looked up from communications. Captain, I'm picking up Vorthak transmissions. Their fleet commanders are confused. They keep talking about ghost attacks and phantom ships. What are they saying exactly? Dowan asked. Kyung frowned as he listened to his earpiece. They're using words I've never heard before. But the translation software thinks they mean something like impossible death or spirit killer. Sir, I think we're scaring them. Navigator Yona plotted their position on the tactical display. We're currently hiding inside the debris field of their own supply ship, the one we destroyed 3 hours ago. Their sensors can't tell the difference between us and the wreckage. It had been 6 days since the Silent Thunder disappeared from human space. 6 days of hit-and-run attacks that should have been impossible. The Vorthak fleet still outnumbered them by thousands to one, but numbers meant nothing when your enemy couldn't find you. Target analysis complete, announced Weapons Officer Taehyun. I've identified 17 critical supply vessels in their formation. If we take out their fuel tankers, half their fleet will be stranded. Dr. Sunwoo's voice crackled over the intercom. Captain, I need to report something. The crew is starting to show signs of radiation exposure from the quantum drive. Nothing dangerous yet, but we need to monitor it. Dowan nodded grimly. Every advantage came with a price. How long before it becomes a problem? Weeks, maybe months. The good news is that the radiation seems to be making us think faster. Several crew members report improved reflexes and clearer thinking. The bad news is that we don't know why or what the long-term effects might be. Understood, Doctor. Keep monitoring. Dowan turned to his tactical officer. Sora, what's our next target? Tactical. Officer Sora had been studying the enemy fleet patterns for days. Their communication hub ship, Captain. It's heavily defended, but if we take it out, their coordination will collapse. They'll be flying blind. Show me. The tactical display highlighted a massive Vorthak vessel surrounded by escorts. It bristled with weapons and defensive systems, designed to survive anything the enemy could throw at it. Unfortunately for the Vorthak, they had designed it to fight visible enemies. Pilot Jihan, can you get us close enough? Jihan studied the navigation display. It won't be easy, Captain. We'll have to pass through their entire formation. One mistake, one system failure, and they'll see us coming from a light year away. But it's possible? Yes, sir. Barely possible, but possible. Dowan made his decision. Do it. All stations prepare for silent running. We go in fast, hit hard, and disappear. The silent thunder began to move through the Vorthak formation like a shark swimming through a school of fish. Around them, massive alien warships continued their advance toward human space, unaware that death was gliding silently between them. Lieutenant Kyung continued monitoring enemy communications. Captain, I'm learning more about their language. They keep referring to something they call the Certainty Protocol. Near as I can tell, it's their entire military philosophy. Explain. They believe that overwhelming force guarantees victory. Every species they've conquered has surrendered when faced with impossible odds. They literally don't understand how to fight an enemy that won't give up. Engineer Minji looked up from her console. That explains their ship designs. Everything is built for maximum intimidation factor. Huge weapons, massive hulls, overwhelming firepower. They're designed to scare enemies into surrender, not to actually fight a real war. Which means? Dowan asked. Which means they have weaknesses we can exploit. Their shields are designed to stop massive attacks, not small, precise ones. Their weapons are built for long-range bombardment, not close combat. And their formation flying assumes their enemies will attack from the front. Dr. Sunwoo's voice came over the intercom again. Captain, I have an update on the crew's condition. The radiation exposure is definitely changing us. Reaction times are up 40%. Pattern recognition is improved. Several people are reporting enhanced memory. Any negative effects? We're all having trouble sleeping. And some crew members report seeing things that aren't there. Brief flashes of light, shadows moving in their peripheral vision. It might be hallucinations, or it might be that our brains are processing visual information differently. Dowan frowned. Are we still fit for duty? More fit than we've ever been, Captain. Whatever this radiation is doing to us, it's making us better at our jobs. I just wish I knew what the long-term cost would be. The communication hub was getting closer. On the tactical display, Dowan could see the defensive formation around it. 12 escort ships, all heavily armed, all searching for threats they couldn't see. Weapons ready? He asked. Ready, Captain, Taehyun confirmed. I've loaded our modified torpedoes with Vorthak power cores. When they explode, their own fleet won't be able to tell the difference between our weapons and their own ammunition. Navigation? Escape. Route plotted, Yona reported. Once we fire, we'll have approximately 30 seconds before their sensors recalibrate. I can get us clear, but it'll be close. Engineering? Minji checked her displays. Quantum drive is holding steady. Cloak integrity at 90%. We're as ready as we'll ever be. The silent thunder glided closer to its target. The Vorthak communication ship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of Dowen's vessel. Its hull was covered with sensor arrays and transmission dishes, all working frantically to coordinate the movements of 2,000 warships. Range, Dowen asked quietly. 5,000 kilometers in closing, Jihan whispered back. 4,000. 3,000. 2,000 kilometers, Captain. We're inside their defensive perimeter. Around them, the Vorthak escort ships continued. Their patrol patterns, their sensors sweeping space for enemies that might attack from light years away. None of them thought to look for a small ship hiding just a few kilometers from their most important vessel. 1,000 kilometers, Captain. Fire. The silent thunder's weapons blazed to life, sending a stream of modified torpedoes directly into the communication ship's hull. The explosions that followed lit up space like a new star, and for a moment the cloaked human ship was visible in the reflected light of its own attack. Alarms began screaming throughout the Vorthak formation. Ships spun wildly, searching for an enemy that had already vanished back into the darkness between stars. Direct hit, reported Taehyun. Their communication array is gone. The entire fleet is flying blind. On the tactical display, Dowen watched the enemy formation begin to break apart. Without coordination, the massive armada was becoming a collection of individual ships, each operating on outdated information and conflicting orders. Captain, Lieutenant Kyung called out, I'm reading massive confusion in their transmissions. Ship captains are asking for orders, but there's no one left to give them. Dr. Sunwoo's voice came over the intercom one more time. Captain, I have one more report. The crew's brain activity is off the charts. We're thinking faster, seeing patterns more clearly, reacting to threats before they fully develop. Whatever this radiation is doing to us, it's turning us into something new. Dowen looked around at his crew, seeing the strange light in their eyes, the inhuman speed of their movements. They were becoming something beyond normal humans, something designed for war in the dark spaces between stars. Good, he said quietly. We're going to need every advantage we can get. 3 months had passed since the silent thunder disappeared into the dark between stars, and the war had become something no one expected. Captain Dowen stood in his ready room, studying the tactical reports that his crew had compiled. The numbers told an impossible story. The Vorthak Empire had committed over 5,000 ships to the destruction of humanity. In return, humans had sent one experimental vessel with a crew of 200. By every rule of warfare ever written, the humans should have been dead within days. Instead, the Vorthak were losing. Captain, Navigator Yeona called from the bridge. We're approaching the Kepler shipyards. Long-range sensors show minimal defenses. Dowen returned to the bridge where his crew worked with the fluid precision of people who had learned to think as one mind. The radiation from their quantum drive had changed them in ways Dr. Sunwoo still couldn't fully understand. They moved, faster, thought clearer, and seemed to anticipate each other's actions before they happened. What are we looking at? Dowen asked. Yeona brought up the tactical display. The Kepler yards are where they build their heavy cruisers. Intelligence suggests they're producing 50 new ships per month. If we take out the yards, we cripple their ability to replace losses. Defenses? Light. Maybe 24 patrol ships, and they're spread thin. The Vorthak still think we're just a single ghost ship hitting random targets. They don't realize we're following a strategic plan. Tactical Officer Sora had been tracking enemy movements across 17 star systems. Her enhanced mind processed patterns that would have taken normal humans weeks to understand. Captain, they're pulling ships from the front lines to hunt for us. Every major fleet has been ordered to detach squadrons for patrol duty. How many ships? Over 800 vessels are now dedicated to finding and destroying us. That's 800 ships that aren't advancing on human colonies. Engineer. Minji looked up from her station, her eyes bright with the strange light that had come to all of them. The quantum drive is stable, Captain, but we're pushing it harder every day. The modifications I've made using captured Vorthak technology have increased our effectiveness, but they're also increasing the radiation exposure. Dr. Sunwoo's voice came over the intercom. Captain, I need to give you an update on the crew's condition. The changes are accelerating. Average reaction time is now 60% faster than baseline human. Pattern recognition and tactical analysis abilities have improved by over 200%. Any problems? Dowan asked. Define problems, sir. We're becoming something that isn't quite human anymore. The radiation is rewriting our neural pathways, optimizing us for warfare and survival. We're faster, smarter, and more capable than we've ever been. But we're also losing the ability to sleep normally. And several crew members report that they no longer dream. Lieutenant Kyung had been monitoring Vorthak communications for months, and his understanding of their language now surpassed most translation computers. Captain, I've been listening to their tactical discussions. They're calling us the Phantom. Death now. Some of their ship captains are refusing orders to enter sectors where we've been active. Fear. More than fear, sir. Superstition. They've convinced themselves we're not a real ship. Some think we're a weapon created by their own gods as punishment for their crimes. Others believe we're the spirits of all the species they've destroyed, come back for revenge. Weapons Officer Taehyun had spent months modifying their arsenal with captured alien technology. Captain, I've finished integrating the new Vorthak power cores into our torpedo systems. We can now punch through their heaviest shields with a single shot. Pilot Jihan had pushed the Silent Thunder through maneuvers that should have torn the ship apart, using gravitational fields and quantum effects like a surfer rides waves. Navigation is ready, Captain. I can get us in and out of the Kepler yards without them ever knowing we were there. The attack on the Kepler yards began at midnight, ship time. The Silent Thunder approached through the outer system, using the gravity of gas giants to mask their approach. Around them, space traffic moved in predictable patterns, cargo ships and escort vessels following routes that hadn't changed in decades. Cloak integrity holding at maximum, reported Minji. We're invisible to their sensors, but remember, we're not invisible to their eyes. If anyone looks out a window at the wrong moment, they won't, said Sora, with the quiet confidence that had come to all of them. I've analyzed their patrol patterns, their work schedules, even their meal times. Right now, 97% of their personnel are either asleep or looking inward at their tasks. The shipyards were massive, a complex of orbital platforms, and construction bays that stretched across hundreds of kilometers. Dozens of half-built Vorthak cruisers hung in the construction frameworks like sleeping giants. Target priority? Dowan asked. Taehyun highlighted sections of the yards on the tactical display. Primary target? The main fusion plants that power the entire complex. Secondary targets? The fabrication facilities that build their weapon systems. If we take out both, they'll need years to rebuild. Escape route? Yona had mapped every gravitational field and energy signature in the system. Once we fire, we have 45 seconds before their sensors recalibrate. I'll use the shockwave from our own explosions to mask our exit vector. The Silent Thunder glided between the construction platforms like a shadow. Around them, Vorthak workers continued their tasks, unaware that death was passing just meters from their hulls. Range to primary target? 500 kilometers in closing, Jihan whispered. 400! 300! 200 kilometers, Captain! We're inside their construction grid! Fire everything! The Silent Thunder unleashed 3 months of accumulated fury in a single devastating barrage. Modified torpedoes slammed into fusion plants, fabrication centers, and command stations. The explosions that followed turned night into day across the entire system. But this time, something went wrong. Captain, Minji called out in alarm. The quantum drive is overloading. The explosions are interfering with our cloak matrix. For a few terrifying seconds, the Silent Thunder was visible, caught in the light of its own destruction. Vorthak sensors locked onto them immediately, and emergency broadcasts flooded the communication channels. All stop, Dowan ordered. Kill the engines. The ship went silent and dark, drifting among the wreckage of the destroyed shipyards. Around them, Vorthak patrol ships raced toward their last known position, searching frantically for the ghost ship that had finally revealed itself. Cloak status? Fluctuating, Minji reported. We're visible for 2 seconds, then invisible for 5, then visible again. It's like a strobe light. Can you fix it? Not while we're running silent. I need to shut down the quantum drive completely, but that means we'll be fully visible for at least 10 minutes. On the tactical display, Dowan watched enemy ships converge, on their position. In 10 minutes, there would be 100 Vorthak vessels in weapons range. Dr. Sunwoo, he called over the intercom, how are the crew modifications affecting our decision-making processes? Captain, we're operating at peak human efficiency plus about 40%. Why? Because we're about to try something that's either brilliant or completely insane, and I need to know if we can trust our judgment. Dr. Sunwoo was quiet for a moment. Sir, our judgment is better than it's ever been. If you think you have a plan, trust it. Dowan looked around at his crew, seeing the inhuman speed of their thoughts, the predatory grace of their movements. They had become something new, something designed for impossible victories. Here's what we're going to do, he said calmly. We're going to surrender. The bridge fell silent. Sir? Lieutenant Kyung asked carefully. We're going to let them capture us. We're going to let them think they've won. And then when they're not expecting it, we're going to show them what humans do when they're trapped with no way out. Tactical Officer Sora was already running calculations. Captain, if we surrender, they'll board us. We'll be outnumbered 100 to 1. Yes, Dowan agreed. But they'll also be inside our ship, breathing our air, standing in our corridors. And we're not entirely human anymore, are we? Dr. Sunwoo's voice came over the intercom one final time. Captain, I need to warn you. The radiation has made us faster and smarter, but it's also made us more aggressive, more predatory. If we let them board us, I can't guarantee we'll be able to control ourselves. Dowan smiled, and his crew saw something in that smile that was no longer entirely human. Good, he said quietly. Maybe it's time they learned what happens when you hunt a species that refuses to stay dead. The plan to let themselves be captured had worked perfectly, too perfectly. Captain Dowan sat in his ready room, no longer captain of a free ship, but leader of a crew trapped aboard their own vessel. The Vorthak had taken the bait exactly as expected, and now the silent thunder hung in the docking bay of a massive alien command ship, surrounded by guards and scanning equipment. What Dowan hadn't expected was how much the capture would cost them. Dr. Sunwoo entered the ready room without knocking, moving with the fluid grace that had come to all of them. But now there was something else in her movements, something that made Dowan think of hunting cats. Captain, we have a problem, she said quietly. The crew is changing faster now. Whatever exposure we got during that last battle has accelerated the process. How much faster? Pilot Jihan can now process visual information at nearly superhuman levels. He's seeing things that happen seconds before they actually happen, if that makes sense. Navigator Yona has memorized the quantum signatures of every star system within 50 light-years. She could navigate without instruments. Dowan frowned. That sounds like good news. It would be, if they were still entirely human. But Captain, they're losing the ability to relate to normal people. When Intelligence Officer Minho intercepted those Vorthak communications yesterday, he didn't just understand their language. He started thinking in their language. For 3 hours, he forgot how to speak Korean. Through the walls of the ready room, they could hear the sound of alien footsteps as Vorthak guards patrolled the corridors of their ship. The boarding had been surprisingly gentle. The aliens seemed more interested in studying the silent thunder than destroying it. What do the Vorthak want? Dowan asked. They want to understand us. Their entire empire is built on the idea that superior force guarantees victory. We've proven that idea wrong, and it's shaking the foundation of their civilization. They need to know how we've survived so long. Lieutenant Kyung's voice came over the intercom, speaking in a whisper. Captain, I've been monitoring their internal communications. They're calling us the impossibility species. They think we might be the key to understanding why their empire has started losing battles on other fronts. Other fronts? Yes, sir. Apparently 3 other species have started fighting back since news of our success spread. The Vorthak are facing resistance on 12 different worlds now. Engineer Minji had been working constantly since their capture, not on escape plans, but on understanding what was happening to them. Captain, I've been analyzing the quantum radiation effects on our bodies. The changes aren't just physical anymore. We're developing abilities that shouldn't be possible. Such as Weapons Officer Tae-hyun can now calculate trajectory and impact data in his head faster than our targeting computers. Tactical Officer Sora is predicting enemy movements with 98% accuracy. And sir, I think I can hear the quantum fluctuations in the ship's hull. Dr. Sunwoo nodded grimly. The radiation is rewriting our brains, optimizing us for warfare and survival, but it's also burning us out. I estimate we have weeks, maybe days, before the changes become irreversible. Meaning we're becoming something that can't survive in peacetime. We're becoming living weapons, Captain. Perfect soldiers, who can never go home. The door to the ready room opened, and Tactical Officer Sora entered. Her movements were impossibly smooth, like a predator made of shadows and starlight. Captain, I've completed my analysis of their ship. This isn't just a command vessel. It's their primary war council station. Every major decision about the human front is made here. How many crew? 30,000 Vorthak plus support staff. But here's the interesting part. They've isolated us in our own ship because they're afraid of us. Not just afraid of what we might do, but afraid of what we represent. Explain. They've built their entire society on the idea that resistance is futile. That superior force always wins. We've proven that idea wrong, and now they're questioning everything. Some of their junior officers are asking why they should obey orders from superiors who can't defeat a single human ship. Intelligence Officer Minho had been analyzing captured Vorthak data for days, his enhanced mind processing information at inhuman speeds. Captain, I've learned something important. The Vorthak Empire is more fragile than we thought. They maintain control through fear and overwhelming force, but if that fear breaks down, the whole system collapses. Dr. Sunwoo checked her medical scanner. Captain, I'm detecting increased stress hormones in the crew. The changes are making everyone more aggressive. We're going to have to make our move soon, before we lose the ability to think strategically. What are our options? Engineer Minji had been studying the alien ship systems since their capture. I can overload our quantum drive, Captain. The explosion would destroy this entire command station and everything within several light hours. But it would also kill us. Are there any other choices? We could try to escape. I've identified weaknesses in their docking systems, but we'd be running with a crew that's more radiation damaged every day, in a ship that's barely holding together. Navigator, Yona had been plotting courses through Vorthak space, her enhanced mind seeing patterns in hyperspace that normal humans couldn't perceive. Captain, if we do escape, I can get us home, but the quantum drive damage means we'd be flying blind for most of the journey. One miscalculation and we'd be lost between stars forever. Weapons Officer Tae-hyun had been cataloging the alien ship's weapons and defenses. Captain, there's a third option. We could take this ship. With our enhanced abilities, we could probably overwhelm the crew. But then what? We'd be 30,000 light-years from home in a stolen alien vessel. Lieutenant Kyung was monitoring Vorthak communications when his expression suddenly changed. Captain, urgent message from their fleet command. They're planning to execute all human prisoners tomorrow. Every captured human in Vorthak space, including us. Why? They've decided we're too dangerous to keep alive. The War Council has concluded that humans are an existential threat to their empire. They're going to make an example of us. Dr. Sunwoo checked her medical readings one more time. Captain, decision time. The crew's brain activity is off the charts. We're thinking faster and clearer than ever before, but we're also becoming something that isn't entirely human. Whatever choice we make, we need to make it now. Dowan looked around at his transformed crew. They had become something beyond normal humans, something designed for impossible victories in the dark between stars. But they had also become something that could never return to the quiet worlds they had once called home. Status of our quantum drive, he asked. Unstable but functional, Minji reported. If I push it to maximum overload, the explosion would be visible from 3 star systems away. And the Vorthak command structure? Gone, Sora said simply. along with their war council, their fleet coordination systems, and their ability to organize resistance against humanity. Casualties? 30,000 Vorthak on this ship, maybe 50,000 more on nearby vessels. And us. Dowan was quiet for a long moment, thinking with a mind that was no longer entirely human. Around him his crew waited with the patience of perfect predators. "Pilot Jihan," he said finally, "what are our chances of escape?" 40%, Captain. Maybe less. Navigator Yona, what are our chances of making it home? 20%. Sir, the quantum damage is too severe for reliable navigation. Engineer Minji, if we overload the drive, what are our chances of stopping the Vorthak advance? 100%, Captain. Without their command structure, their empire will collapse into chaos within months. Dr. Sunwoo, what are our chances of surviving long enough to see the end of the war? Dr. Sunwoo was quiet for a moment. Captain, we stopped being entirely human weeks ago. The radiation has turned us into something new, something that might not be able to survive in peacetime even if we lived through this. In a way, we're already dead. The question is, what we do with the time we have left. Dowan looked around at his crew one final time, seeing the strange light in their eyes, the inhuman grace of their movements. They had become living weapons, perfect soldiers who could never go home. Then let's make sure our deaths count for something, he said quietly. All hands prepare for quantum overload. The final moments aboard the Silent Thunder moved with the strange clarity that comes when time runs short. Captain Dowan walked through his ship one last time, seeing his crew at their stations, with eyes that were no longer entirely human. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Minji worked with movements too fast and precise for normal people to follow. The quantum drive hummed with barely contained power, its energy readings climbing toward levels that would tear reality apart. How long? Dowan asked. 15 minutes until critical overload, Minji replied without looking up from her controls. Once I start the final sequence, we can't stop it. The explosion will be visible from Vorthak homeworlds. Will it work? Captain, we're going to create a hole in space-time big enough to swallow a small moon. This command station, their war, council, and every ship within 50,000 kilometers will simply stop existing. On the bridge, Navigator Yona had calculated their final trajectory with inhuman precision. Captain, I've plotted our position relative to Vorthak fleet formations across 17 sectors. When we detonate, the command disruption will leave over 3,000 enemy ships without orders. Lieutenant Kyung monitored alien communications, his enhanced mind processing their language faster than translation computers. Captain, they're getting suspicious. The Vorthak command staff is asking why our quantum signatures are increasing. How much time before they figure it out? Maybe 5 minutes, sir. They're smart, and they're scared. Fear makes people think faster. Tactical Officer Sora had been studying enemy fleet positions. Captain, I've identified secondary command vessels in their formation. Even after we destroy this station, they'll still have some coordination ability. How much? Enough to retreat in good order, but not enough to maintain their advance on human colonies. We're about to buy humanity years, maybe decades, to rebuild their defenses. Dr. Sunwoo had been monitoring the crew's vital signs as they prepared for death. Captain, the radiation changes are accelerating. Everyone's brain activity is approaching levels that shouldn't be possible. We're thinking faster than ever before, but we're also burning out. Even if we somehow survived this, we'd have days at most. Any regrets, Doctor? None, sir. We stopped being entirely human months ago. What we're about to become is something better. Something that refuses to fade quietly when faced with extinction. Weapons Officer Tae-hyun had armed every remaining weapon on the ship. Captain, if they try to board us before the overload completes, we can hold them off. But it'll be close. Intelligence Officer Minho, what's your final assessment of Vorthak's strategic capabilities? Minho had been analyzing enemy communications for so long that he sometimes forgot which language he was thinking in. Captain, their empire is more fragile than anyone realized. They maintain control through fear and overwhelming force. When we destroy their command structure, that fear will break, Some of their subject species will revolt within days. Pilot Jihan sat at his station, hands steady despite knowing he would never fly another ship. Captain, I've been thinking about the evacuation fleets. By now they're probably safe in the outer colonies. Those 2 million civilians we bought? Time for? And their children, added Navigator Yona quietly. And their children's children. Every human who lives because we gave them 12 hours to run. The Vorthak were getting suspicious now. Through the ship's sensors, they could detect alien soldiers moving toward the Silent Thunder's docking bay. The enemy had finally realized that their prisoners were planning something. Captain, Lieutenant Kyung reported, Vorthak security teams are approaching our position. They're demanding immediate access to our engine room. Tell them we're experiencing technical difficulties, Dowen ordered. Buy us a few more minutes. Engineer Minji looked up from her controls, her eyes bright with the strange light that had come to all of them. Captain, quantum cascade is beginning. We're past the point of no return. Around them, the ship began to vibrate as space-time itself started to bend. The walls groaned with stresses that normal matter was never meant to endure, but the Silent Thunder held together, held by the will of a crew that refused to break even when facing the impossible. All stations, final reports, Tywin ordered. Engineering quantum overload proceeding normally. 7 minutes to detonation. Navigation. Position confirmed. We're at the exact center of their command formation. Weapons. All systems armed and ready. If they breach our hull, we'll take as many as we can with us. Communications. Broadcasting. Our final message on all human frequencies. Medical. Crew status optimal. We're going to die as the best versions of ourselves. Tactical. Enemy fleet positions confirmed. Our sacrifice will cripple their ability to coordinate attacks. Intelligence. Vorthak Empire structural collapse predicted within 6 months of command disruption. Dr. Sunwoo's voice came over the intercom. Captain, I have one final medical report. The quantum radiation has changed us into something that might not technically be human anymore, but we're still us. We still remember why we stayed behind. To buy time, Dowen said quietly. To save lives, added Navigator Yona. To show the galaxy that humans don't surrender, Weapons Officer Taehyun continued. To prove that overwhelming force doesn't guarantee victory, finished Tactical Officer Sora. The Vorthak security teams had reached their docking bay. Alien voices could be heard outside the ship, demanding entry and threatening destruction if they were refused. Captain, Lieutenant Kyung said, they're trying to override our airlock controls. Let them, Dowen replied calmly. It won't matter in 3 minutes. Engineer Minji's readings were climbing toward levels that defied physics. Captain, the E quantum field is destabilizing local spacetime. I'm reading temporal fluctuations, gravity waves, and energy signatures that our instruments can't properly measure. Will the explosion be clean? Sir, we're about to create a small star. It'll burn bright enough to light up half the galaxy. The airlock finally opened, and Vorthak soldiers poured into the ship. But instead of finding helpless prisoners, they discovered something that made them stop in confusion and fear. The crew of the Silent Thunder had changed beyond recognition. They moved with inhuman speed and precision, their eyes bright with energies that bent light around them. When they spoke, their voices carried harmonics that seemed to come from the quantum fluctuations themselves. You're too late, Captain, Dowen told the alien soldiers, his words carrying the weight of collapsing stars. We've already won. The Vorthak commander tried to demand surrender, but his words died when he saw the readings on his scanner. The human ship was generating energy, levels that could destroy planets. 1 minute to cascade failure, Engineer Minji announced, her voice now carrying echoes of the quantum void. Around them, reality began to bend. The ship's corridors stretched and contracted as space-time warped under the stress of barely contained energies. But the crew remained at their stations, their transformed minds processing the impossible with calm precision. Captain, Dr. Sunwoo said, I can feel the quantum field interacting with our modified neural pathways. We're becoming part of the explosion itself. What does that mean? It means we're not just dying, Captain. We're becoming something that will echo across space and time. Every species in the galaxy will remember what happened here. Lieutenant Kyung's final transmission went out on all frequencies, carrying the story of the Silent Thunder to every corner of human space. This is the crew of the Silent Thunder. We came here to buy time for evacuation ships. We stayed to show the galaxy that humans refuse to fade quietly. Our thunder will echo in the void long after the stars grow cold. The quantum cascade reached critical mass. Around them, the fabric of reality began to tear as energies beyond comprehension built toward release. 10 seconds, Engineer Minji called out. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. The explosion that followed was visible from 17 star systems. The Silent Thunder and the Vorthak command station simply ceased to exist, replaced by an expanding sphere of pure energy that rewrote the laws of physics in a volume of space, larger than most solar systems. When the light faded and the energy dissipated, nothing remained except a region of space where time moved differently and stars shone with colors that had no names. But the echo of their sacrifice spread faster than light itself, carried by quantum entanglement across the galaxy. On distant worlds, other species felt the resonance of their defiance. The message was simple and clear. Overwhelming force does not guarantee victory. The Vorthak Empire, built on fear and the certainty of superior numbers, began to crumble within days. Subject species revolted. Fleet commanders questioned orders, and the iron discipline that had held their civilization together for millennia shattered like glass. Humanity survived. The evacuation fleets reached safety, the outer colonies were rebuilt, and within a generation, humans were pushing back against their former oppressors. In the end, 200 souls had held back an empire of billions. They had proven that determination could triumph over overwhelming odds, that sacrifice could kindle hope across the galaxy, and that some things are worth dying for. The Silent Thunder was gone, but its echo would never fade. In the cold void, where they made their final stand, space itself still carries the memory of their refusal to surrender.